My name is Ango, and I just got back from the TNA Bound for Glory 2024 press conference, and I want to give you guys an idea of what you may have missed out on. There's a lot of things to take away from this press conference, and since I was there, I can give you guys first-hand analysis from everything I experienced while I was there. Now, I do want to preface this by saying that TNA did invite me to the TNA Bound for Glory press conference, which I was super excited about. I did a lot of note taking, and trust me, I was paying a lot of attention to what was being said on the stage. But I got to admit to you guys, TNA is doing an excellent job with these press conferences. Storylines are being progressed further, and it seems like they're doing a really good job of getting people even more excited for the pay-per-view event. Now, I will be in attendance for Bound for Glory this year, and as you can imagine, I'm very excited. A lot of people actually don't seem to know this, but in 2006, TNA brought Bound for Glory to Plymouth, Michigan, which is not too far away from Detroit. And that was actually the first pay-per-view that TNA did outside of the Orlando studios impact zone, right? So now that TNA is back in Detroit, it's 2024. It's obviously been a very, very long time since Bound for Glory was here. I've been super excited ever since the announcement. It just seems like TNA has been doing a really good job of building up this pay-per-view. But now that I was actually at the press conference, there's a couple things that I wanted to talk to you guys about. Now, first and foremost, I want to give a lot of credit to the crew that handles the press conference and everything. Gia Miller and everybody behind the scenes, just a really good job of presenting the press conference as a big deal. I thought that was one of the most unique things about this entire experience. It just seems like they are very, very good at being organized and putting on a press conference. The second thing that I want to say is I thought the media did a really good job of asking questions. So a lot of props to all of the members of the media who were there. And the third thing that I really want to point out in general is just how great the talent are. I think TNA has a very stacked roster, and it's very often that we talk about how good their roster is, but watching them up close and personal, answering questions, progressing storylines, and creating hype for a pay-per-view, I just thought it was a really, really good job by the talent. And I really want to start with Nick Nemeth and Joe Hendry. For a lot of people who've been watching TNA in the past year, then you know that Nick Nemeth has been holding it down as the TNA World Champion. He was released by the WWE. He could have gone to New Japan permanently. He could have gone to AEW. He could have done what every other free agent does, but instead, he brought the wanted man gimmick to TNA, and he really stole the show at Hard to Kill. And all of these months have gone by, and he's done a lot of great things in TNA. But I thought one thing that really came out clear from Nick Nemeth was that this guy is really passionate about what he does. And on top of that, I really do believe his confidence is just truly amazing to watch up close and personal. But on the flip side of that, you have Joe Hendry, who is a rising star. I mean, just the night before at Little Caesars Arena, I was at the Pistons game in attendance. Joe Hendry's theme song came on the air. And on top of that, he was on the Jumbotron with Matt and Jeff Hardy. And this was a really cool thing because there was a ton of Pistons fans who were singing along and clapping along to the Joe Hendry theme song. So this is a guy who, honestly, he has gone viral. He is making a name for himself. People are starting to know who he is. And what I really love about this feud is that there is a really nice dynamic between Nick Nemeth and Joe Hendry. And just in itself, it's a very unpredictable match. But now you got Frankie Kazarian involved, and I thought Frankie Kazarian is like the best person for this because it did get brought up at the press conference. Hey, Frankie Kazarian, you're going to be in the Call Your Shot gauntlet match. You're also going to be the special guest referee. Who's to say that you don't just take off your referee shirt and then cash in if you were to, in fact, win the gauntlet match? And I thought this was a really unique situation because for TNA, the match is already unpredictable as is. And then you add Frankie Kazarian into the mix and you have to wonder how this is going to play out. Now, you do got to keep in mind, earlier in the year, Frankie Kazarian and Joe Hendry did appear on NXT television. And when they appeared on NXT television, one of the big things was that their interaction on that show actually carried over into TNA programming. And now that led us here. So I am very fascinated by this main event match. There's been so many great main event matches in TNA history, but this is the one where I genuinely don't know who's going to win. And I feel like both gentlemen really sold it well at the press conference that this is truly unpredictable. And I really love the shift with Nick Nemeth and Joe Hendry just being super respectful. And then at certain points during this press conference, you can tell there was a little bit of tension there. The other thing that I really loved about this press conference was the Hardys. I feel like the Hardys, we all know that they're legends. We all know, what they've done in their career and stuff like that. But it was really interesting hearing the Hardys talk about TNA. Guys, it's no secret. TNA's got more sellouts, more big cities, bigger venues. We saw a change in the branding. We saw the change in the title belts. They've made so many positive changes in this 1 year, and the year isn't even over yet. And the Hardys left AEW, they came back to TNA, and they have a chance to become tag team champions for TNA. And like, this is just an exciting time period. They're in a Full Metal Mayhem match, and like, this is the type of stuff that you want to see in pro wrestling. And I felt like they did a really good job. I think we all know that the Hardys aren't going to be wrestling for the next 10 years. I think it's safe to assume that they're not going to be wrestling that long. So it just seems like, this is a good way for them to end their career. Obviously, we want to see them in WWE's Hall of Fame, but what they're doing in TNA right now is really special, and hearing them talk about it was really unique. I also really just want to point out one of the coolest things about this press conference, and this was probably the most important aspect of the press conference, is that not only do these people answer questions, not only do the talent, interact with everybody, but the big thing that I really, really loved was pushing the stories. I feel like sometimes press conferences in pro wrestling focus too much on the backstage stuff. This was a really cool thing that made me believe Bound for Glory is going to be a very big pay-per-view. These guys are all so skilled. There's a lot of great questions. And like I said, I feel like TNA just did a really good job of presenting themselves. And also, I think one last really key moment of this press conference was Frankie Kazarian mentioning that he was the only person up there that was a TNA original. A lot of people don't know, in 2006, when Bound for Glory was in Michigan, the last time they were in Michigan, Frankie Kazarian was in that gauntlet match. So it's kind of a full circle moment. And I love the fact that, like, Kazarian, he's always, and it got brought up during the press conference, but he's wrestled for every company, but his passion and his heart truly leads him to TNA. You can tell there's a lot of excitement about what TNA is doing and how they're growing. And that's what we want to see. That's what we want to see, guys. We have to understand that there's a lot of wrestling companies out there, but these people, everybody, the crew, the media, the wrestlers, the fans, it just seems like everybody is really excited about what is happening with TNA. And guys, it wasn't always like that. So it was just a really cool thing. I also loved it when Kazarian kind of peeled back the curtain. He's been there through all these eras. He knows what it's like to be in TNA. He's heard all the talks of people saying TNA would die. And now Frankie Kazarian plays a very, very incredible piece of the puzzle, because he's a special guest referee. Who knows what's going to happen? Guys, I'm super excited for Bound for Glory. I'm going to be live tomorrow doing predictions. If you guys aren't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and click subscribe. And yeah, thank you, TNA, for having me there. I'm super excited for Bound for Glory this weekend, and I can't wait to see what happens.